Hey, how's it going, everybody? Mike Weber here, your Los Angeles real estate broker, here with your market update for the beginning of August 2023. So we're still in a pretty interesting real estate market. As many of you probably know, the Federal Reserve raised rates another 25 basis points last week, another 0.25%, which caused the 10-year Treasury bond rate to go up immediately thereafter, which of course is what mortgage rates are based upon. So mortgage rates are higher this week than they have been in recent weeks or recent months. So we've continued to see this trend up in interest rates, which obviously is having quite a big effect on demand and buyers' affordability. But I think the interesting thing that is somewhat unexpected that maybe most people wouldn't have really anticipated is that the higher mortgage rates are actually causing a lot less sellers to want to list and sell their homes and move. So we're seeing a lot less supply on the market. And I actually think there's enough demand, even at the higher rates. There's enough buyers that still can afford to buy, that still need to buy, that still want to buy. But unfortunately, there's just not enough inventory. There's not enough homes out there to supply that demand, albeit probably lower than it would be if rates were lower. But I think there's still an imbalance in terms of supply and demand right now in the market, and we're definitely seeing that in the data. I mean, across the board, Los Angeles County, prices are kind of going sideways. So in that respect, obviously the homes that are still selling, they're still selling for very high prices. But when we look at the supply of inventory, the activity levels, there's just not a lot going on out there. And that's really mainly because there's just not a lot of inventory to be being bought and sold. But let's go ahead and jump into the actual data and we'll see what's happening. So getting started, we see that median home prices in LA County are up 0.4% year over year. They've kind of been really just going sideways for a whole year now. Interestingly, they started to come down, obviously, as rates started to go up, which that makes sense. But then things kind of turned around because the surprise effect was that low inventory I talked about, obviously causing there not to be a lot of options out there. So we started to see buyers start bidding up, again, the properties that were getting listed. And in fact, right now, in many instances, and of course, it depends to some extent on where the property is and what type of property it is, but we're seeing multiple offers, kind of like the heyday, 3, 4, 5 years ago when everything was totally crazy. But when we look at closed sales, you can see from the chart, I mean, things are down. There's not as much activity happening. We're down 18.2%. From a year over year standpoint. And obviously that's a lower base because things have been trending down for several years now. So unfortunately, there's just not a lot of things that are actually closing. And again, that's because there's not a lot of properties on the market. When we look at pending sales, it really looks pretty terrible. We're down about 40% year over year. I mean, there is just not much in escrow right now. There's not a lot of homes in the market. So it's slim pickings out there for buyers. I mean, it's kind of crazy to think that it could get worse than what we were experiencing 3, 4, 5 years ago. But that is certainly the case. Things have gotten even more difficult for being a buyer. And lastly, when we look at the supply of inventory in Los Angeles County, pretty similar story. I mean, we're down just slightly from a year ago, but we're at a very low point overall as inventory has continued to trend down over the last several years. So again, just not a lot out there really for buyers to choose from. That being said, homes are still selling, people are still making decisions. One common thing we're seeing right now is an interest rate buy down, which allows a buyer to have a lower interest rate for the first year or 2 years. Many times we can get a seller to pay for that. So there's all kinds of unique and creative things that we can do to help people get into a property that makes sense for them or find a property that may work for them, etc. If I could help you guys with anything at all, reach out to me. You know where to find me. Click all the buttons and all the likes and all that fun stuff. And appreciate you guys watching. I hope you're doing amazing, and I'll see you on the next video. Take care.